Hello! And boo! Oh dear. Welcome to another episode of Chunk by Chunk. Okay, back to seriousness now. So for those of you who've been following this video series, or have been involved in the alpha or beta testing of Chunk Wars at any point, you'll probably know that the map is at, or has been at, an almost complete stage for quite a long time now. But as is often the case, real life gets in the way of hobbies, and I haven't had a chance to finish it off yet. When I was originally designing and developing Chunk Wars, I captured a lot of video footage from both my building and thought processes, and most of that you'll have seen already on my channel in the first 8 episodes. But I have another 5 episodes of the remaining chunks that I haven't shown yet. But unfortunately they are almost completely unusable. There's a painfully loud electronic crackle that I think recorded from my microphone at the time, and it cuts in and out across the footage and the sounds. I've tried to remove it with a sort of sound cleaner piece of software, but it's not working well enough to take that and then present it to an audience. So at this point my plan is to sit down with each of the remaining chunks and go through my thought processes from when I was developing those game environments originally. So I've taken notes as best I can, and what I'm going to do with those notes... well, the temple still works. Yeah, what I'm going to do with those notes is refilm, as on the development map, which I still have, the different progression stages from for each chunk, and talk about the thought process I had at the time. It will take quite a while, but I'd really like to get this project finished and complete. Putting all that aside though, you might ask what we're doing here today. So I was going through all the old footage, and while I was doing that I found 2 episodes worth of film that either doesn't have the sound problem or has it a little bit, and I can cut it together and sort of chop it in to make an episode. So I've got 2 episodes worth of that. They are going to be at a bit of a weird place in the series now. I'd originally planned to show them towards the end. One of them is the first draft of my sort of selection panels and way to kind of select different game modes and types. And the second, which we'll look at next time, is the first draft of the tutorial system I built. So today I'm going to show you the selection panel footage. Please bear in mind that when I recorded it there was obviously no ultra hardcore mode in Minecraft. That has obviously changed since, and I think I mentioned that a couple of times during the footage as being something that's modded. That's that's not necessary anymore. So I hope you really enjoy the episode. I hope it gives you a bit of insight. Thanks very much for listening, and let's roll the old footage. Hello again guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be working on the not a chunk. I've talked a little bit about the user experience before, from a player's point of view, and how they move around the surface of a chunk, whether they're able to PvP in the space we're giving them, whether we give them a 1 wide or a 2 wide path to make sure they don't fall off, whether it's a fun experience. And I think that also applies to how people choose game options. And today that's what we're going to think about. We're going to talk a little bit about the selection panels I have in mind, and we're going to talk about the different kind of game modes and options I want to make available to players. I want each of the selection panels to be scalable. I need a 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide, maybe even 6 wide panel. I'm less worried about the redstone at the back than the front end to the player and making sure they have maximum information available to them. And there are 4 things I think that are really key in this. So the first one is that the panel itself should stand out against the surround. So for that reason I've picked quite a dark block here in spruce wood, and I think that's important. The second one is that it should make it really clear what kind of choice you are making. And for that reason I've decided to pick some blocks that might relate to the choice you're making. And by that I mean, so a dirt block is fairly basic. So this one might be for adventure mode, which is really basic. This end stone here might be for you get extra ender pearls at the start of the game. And I can't type today. There we go, ender pearls. And the snow might be to toggle, you know, weather on and off. And each of those blocks is really distinctive, so I can see very clearly what choice I'm going to make if I come over here and press, you know, the button or lever. That leads us on to the third point, which is I want it to be really obvious how you make the choice. So in this case it might be just a lever, you toggle it on or off. And I also want it to be obvious that you've actually made the choice, and that's the fourth thing. So I want some lights which clearly indicate whether the choice has been made. So in this case, let's pop the lever up there. And hey, yeah, we can see that weather is on right now. And if we turned it off, the light would go out. Obviously this lever won't be here, and we'll have the redstone at the back controlling that. And those are the four things I think are important in the selection panel. So I'm going to go ahead and mock up a few more. And I'm also going to list on signs the different options of game modes and selections I think that are important to players that can either add value to the game or make it a bit more fun and interesting as well. So I'll do that now, and then we'll come back and look at them together and we can hopefully make a choice. Okay then, so here are two options I've mocked up, and we'll look at both of them and talk about what's good and what's bad. So the first one, I really like this because you can see the information right in your eye line on the signs and the item frames. You can see clearly if the choice is selected, on or off, and the button is up top, nice and easy to reach as well. The thing I don't like about this though is that when I look up to press the button, I can't see the light coming on. So I did a second version where I put the lights up top again. So I'm here, I can see all the information in my eye line, the sign and the item frames. I can hit the button and the light will come on, and that's in my eye line when I'm hitting the button, and I can still see the information. So I think I get more out of this panel. But I'd love to hear your comments, so if you prefer this one over this one, or you have a different suggested layout for the front panel that you think is easier for the player, leave a comment below and I'll take a look at those and we can try and make this choice together. Next up is the range of different game modes and options that I want to present to players, and I'll need to start sorting these at some point into whether they're just toggles or a selection, like this panel for example, where you can only select one difficulty mode. You're only ever going to have one of these lights selected. Or in the case of this, where you might have weather on or off and it's independent of that choice. So here are the different modes I've thought of. So, a hardcore mode where you only get one life per person, you don't get a bed. The ultra hardcore, one life, no regen. Obviously you'll need a mod for that right now, but I think it'd be super fun to play Chunk Wars in ultra hardcore mode as well. Adventure mode, which we had before over here. We got ender pearls. Oop, punch the block out. Again, we had that on the other panel. And I still can't spell ender pearls, which is good. An iron pickaxe. So I'm not sure what I'm going to call these modes necessarily, but if you started the game with an iron pickaxe, you'd be able to get diamonds within about 40 or 50 seconds. You just dig down into your strongholds, and that would obviously advance the gameplay a little bit more. It might speed it up. Golden apples. So you might start the game with an enchanted golden apple or a couple of normal golden apples. So you know you'd have a lot more potential health and regen. You might need to play a little bit safer. Spawn eggs, where we might give people or teams a couple of spawn eggs at the start of the game, and they could run into somebody's base, dump down a creeper, and run away and have the creeper blow up in their house. I think that would be super fun and pretty amusing if you played it. We've got TNT. So there's not much TNT in the map right now. I think it might be interesting to have a game mode where you put tons of TNT in, and obviously that changes the strategy massively as all of these ones can do. But I think it might be a fun experience for players if they want to let their hair down a little bit and have a more destructive game. Weather on and off we already talked about. Different arena types, so I've got a couple of different layouts of Chunk Wars in mind. There'll obviously be the one key sort of vanilla one, which I think is the standard game mode, but I'd like to have some fun with people as well once they've played it a few times and offer some other options. And then the 2-team or 4-team version of Chunk Wars. So as you may know if you followed me on Twitter, You know, the game started out as a 4-team version and ended up being a more competitive 2-team version. But I'd like to keep the 4-team version in there for kind of legacy reasons and archive, and if people want to see it, I think that might be quite fun. So yeah, I'd like to give them the option to choose between those two. And I'm sure there are some other game modes as well, but I haven't thought of enough of those yet. What I am going to do now is pick one of these panels and start sorting the signs. So I think I'm going to go with this layout for now, but like I said, if you've got any comments or better ideas, then we'll come back to the layout later if we need to. And I'm going to try and pick out some blocks that relate to each of these choices, and then we'll start putting panels together. Right, so I've done a bunch of work off camera. I've taken all the different options and split them into the different groups I think they belong in. And then I've thought about whether they are toggleable or mutually exclusive, and I've put in some blocks and items to represent the different choices. So let's have a run through those, and then you can help me with the decisions we've got left. So here's our first panel. These are all toggleable. You could choose any number of these options and they wouldn't affect the others. They're all kind of independent choices. You might say, I want to play in adventure mode, I want to start with an iron pickaxe, and I want some spawn eggs. And that'd be okay, and then you'd hit a start button over here somewhere, and it would send that choice to the arena. What I've done is I've renamed the iron pickaxe to advanced technology, and the golden apple ones to golden delicious, because that's a type of apple. And I also renamed the TNT option to chunk annihilation, and I've used bedrock here to represent how the arena would look if it was all blown up. And finally I added in potions as well, so there's a cauldron behind here, and maybe call it Wizard's Brew or something. That's a Terry Pratchett reference for anybody who doesn't get it. I'm a big Terry Pratchett fan. We've got the second panel here, which is the sort of game type and the arena type. So standard game mode will be the 2-team one. You could flick it down to use the 4-team one, and then you could choose your type of arena. So the standard arena, the remixed one, or the compressed one, where all the space is gone from the arena. So this sort of represents kind of a minimize icon. It's just 2 hoppers behind there, but I couldn't find anything else to represent that. And this is currently the kind of representing the house on your home chunk, so it's a piece of cobble and a wooden stair for the roof, and then I flipped those upside down. I also thought about using something that was like the tree. Whoops, there we go, oak leaves. So the normal one might be tree, and your remixed might look something like that, so it's sort of upside down tree. And I went ahead and used a grass block to kind of represent it being moved around. So if you've got any better ideas than this, or you like the tree one, let me know. The third panel we've got is the sort of game mode, I guess, which is your normal, unlimited lives, regeneration, you get a bed, and you'll respawn until somebody breaks your bed. You've got the hardcore mode, where you get 1 life, and I used the Steve head here again, as I did down there actually to represent adventure mode, so we need to think about this one. And we've got ultra hardcore here as well, which also uses the bedrock block, and that needs to change, or this one over here needs to change. And I used gold ingots here because they have a different meaning in ultra hardcore mode, and obviously this will be a mod pack as well. And then the final panel is just simply what time does the game start, and is the weather on or off. So I think those are the full range of choices that we'll offer to players. I may think of some more as we go along, and I realise I've created a bunch more work for myself potentially by adding in 4-team versions of these maps, because originally there was only the one 4-team arena. I may take this out and just have that again for kind of archive purposes, in which case we might separate this panel, because this choice relates to those and is independent from them. So I've put a wood separator down the middle here, and you might also notice I've also put in logs across the middle on all of these, and I think that looks a little bit better than this panel, because it sort of separates the information section from the inputs and outputs section by having the wood around it. So yeah, let me know what you think of all the stuff I've shown you today in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the different choices we've got left are, whether you've got any suggestions for what could represent 2 and 4, because I need some blocks of these and I couldn't come up with any ideas. And that's it for today, so thank you very much for watching. Bye bye, and I hope you've enjoyed it.